Okay. Today we pause for a moment in the middle of our fast-paced world. Every day your phone lights up with notifications, endless feeds of news and entertainment blur the edges of your attention, and you find yourself pulled in 1,000 directions. Yet in all this noise, a quiet question emerges. What does it mean to be truly free? Is it power, wealth, or the ability to move without restraint? Or is it something far more subtle? Here on Stoic Dhamma, we explore the wisdom of ancient philosophy, uncovering its relevance for modern life. Today's journey leads us into the thought of Epictetus of Hierapolis, a man who lived as a slave in Rome, yet spoke of a freedom no chain could touch. His teaching reveals that true freedom does not lie outside in circumstances we cannot control, but within. The discipline of the mind, the mastery of emotions, and the calm resilience of the spirit. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, and it is the path toward inner peace, not of luxury or privilege, but from the depth of human struggle. Born into slavery in the Roman Empire, Epictetus lived in chains, yet he came to see that the truest chains are not made of iron. They are woven from fear, desire, and the illusions we carry within our own minds. His philosophy was not abstract speculation, but a way of survival, a way of reclaiming dignity even when outward freedom had been stripped away. In Rome, slaves had no voice, no property, and no promise of a future. Yet within this silence, Epictetus discovered that the mind itself could not be enslaved. His teachings carried the radical insight that freedom is not granted by rulers nor purchased with wealth, but cultivated through self-discipline. To rule oneself, to govern one's thoughts and reactions, was to achieve a sovereignty no emperor could diminish. The paradox of his life, an enslaved man teaching the nature of freedom, still resonates as one of the most powerful lessons of Stoic philosophy. From this ancient perspective, we turn to our own time. Few today wear the chains of Roman masters, yet subtler forms of slavery remain. Each morning we wake beneath invisible weights, the demand to succeed, to appear flawless, to seek validation through screens and applause. Our shackles are woven from comparison, materialism, and the restless pursuit of approval. Outwardly we look free, yet inwardly we remain bound. Consider wealth. Many believe money grants freedom, but peace is rarely found in possessions. In truth, what we own soon owns us. The same holds for status and recognition. When joy depends on praise, we exchange autonomy for applause. Epictetus reminded us that such liberty is false, for as long as our happiness lies in another's hands, the soul remains a captive. But what then is the alternative? The Stoic answer is not to abandon society, nor to reject the duties of life. Instead, it is to cultivate mastery of perception. True freedom begins when you recognize that events outside your control should not dictate the state of your heart. If insults, misfortunes, or losses arrive, they do not determine who you are. What matters is how you respond. This subtle shift, from external dependence to internal sovereignty, is the very heart of Stoic freedom. It is the capacity to stand unmoved while storms rage around you. Imagine walking through a crowded marketplace in Rome, where traders shout, coins clatter, and tempers flare. In such chaos, the Stoic is unmoved not because he ignores the noise, but because he chooses not to surrender his peace to it. The same holds true today as you scroll through social media, flooded with endless opinions and controversies. The marketplace has changed, but the discipline remains the same. Freedom lies in the refusal to let noise dictate the rhythm of your soul. This is daily mindfulness, a quiet rebellion against distraction. Stoic philosophy teaches that freedom is not about reshaping the world, but about transforming how we meet it. Epictetus reminded his students that while body, reputation, and fortune lie beyond control, judgment always belongs to us. In modern terms, freedom is the pause before reaction, the ability to see a thought as only a thought and to refuse being carried away. Within that pause arises true liberation, untouched by rulers, markets, or circumstance. Marcus Aurelius, burdened by empire and betrayal, turned inward to remind himself that the mind is a refuge, that the soul is colored by its thoughts, and mastery begins with choosing those colors. Seneca warned that crowds lead us astray, that freedom demands courage to stand apart. Across centuries, these voices echo one truth: liberation is an inner conquest, never an external prize. Now imagine for a moment that you were stripped of every comfort. No titles, no possessions, no guarantees of tomorrow. What would remain? If freedom depends on things that can vanish, then freedom itself is fragile. But if freedom is grounded in your ability to govern your inner life, then nothing can truly take it from you. This is why Epictetus could claim a sovereignty greater than the emperors of Rome. They ruled lands, but he ruled himself. And it is this form of dominion that stands unshaken across the centuries. From here, we recognize that the Stoic view of freedom is not a romantic ideal but a practice. It requires daily attention, a constant turning inward. Each time you feel anger rise, you are offered a chance to practice mastery. Each time desire pulls you into endless wanting, you are invited to return to sufficiency. Each disappointment, each delay, each insult, these become opportunities to remember that nothing external dictates your peace. The work is lifelong, but so is the reward, a mind that cannot be enslaved. The modern world often sells freedom as choice. The more options you have, the freer you become. Yet Stoicism reminds us that multiplying choices does not dissolve the deeper chains. A person with endless desires remains as bound as one with none. The only path to real freedom is to simplify, to clarify what truly matters, and to hold firmly to the truth that peace comes from within. This may sound quiet, even ordinary, but it is extraordinary in its effect. To stand calmly when others rush, to remain whole when others fracture, is to embody liberation itself. The journey of Epictetus is a guide for anyone who feels caught in the grip of modern pressures. You may not wear the iron chains of Rome, but you may still carry chains of anxiety, comparison, and discontent. The lesson of the Stoics is not to ignore these burdens, but to meet them with understanding. By recognizing what belongs to you and what does not, by mastering thought and response, you step into a freedom that cannot be purchased, taken, or lost. This is true freedom, the kind that lives within, waiting to be cultivated. Freedom, Epictetus taught, does not depend on what happens in the outer world, but on the mastery of thought and judgment within. At the core of his philosophy lies a radical yet simple distinction. Some things are within our control, while others are not. Health, wealth, reputation, and even life itself fall into the realm of fortune, forever uncertain and beyond command. Opinion, desire, and choice, however, belong to us alone. The one who confuses these domains becomes enslaved to shifting circumstances. The one who learns to separate them discovers the first step toward liberation. Epictetus spoke from the authority of experience. Born into slavery, his body and daily actions were controlled by others. Yet he uncovered a truth no master could touch: the sovereignty of his judgment. Freedom for him was never the breaking of physical chains, but the ability to determine how to see them. By deciding where to place value, he turned apparent weakness into unshakable strength. This discovery was not a passive resignation to fate, but an act of empowerment, for it rooted the self in what can never be taken away. The world may dictate commands to your body, but only you command your soul. From this foundation, Stoicism expands into a vision of harmony with nature. The Stoics believe the universe is ordered by reason, and to live freely is to live in agreement with this order. Freedom is not bending the world to your desires, but bending your desires to reality. In this alignment, resistance dissolves and serenity arises, a freedom untouched by history's upheavals. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, lived this principle amid wars, disease, and betrayal. He reminded himself that the mind remains a refuge, that the soul is dyed by its thoughts, and that mastery begins with choosing those colors. For him, freedom was not escape from duty, but the strength to meet duty unbroken. The impediment to action becomes the action, the obstacle the way. In this reversal, bondage becomes opportunity, and the forces that confine us become training grounds for liberation. Seneca, the statesman, added another layer. He warned that most of our chains are forged by false beliefs, that happiness depends on possessions, recognition, or long life. Life is brief, he reminded, and freedom comes through simplicity. To need less is to fear less, and to fear less is to be free. Stoic logic is thus one of subtraction. By removing dependency, we reveal unshakable autonomy. This logic remains urgent today. We live in an age of abundance, with endless choices, yet anxiety often grows with choice itself. We fear missing out, losing ground, or failing to measure up. Stoicism cuts through this confusion with one question: does this belong to you or not? If within your power, act with clarity. If beyond it, release without grief. This is not denial, but liberation in practice. Consider criticism at work. The words of others are not yours, but your interpretation of them is. If you give them power, you enslave yourself. If you respond with composure, you reclaim sovereignty. Or consider financial loss. Numbers in an account may vanish, but the dignity with which you face loss remains yours. Freedom emerges when judgment is disciplined, for external events are neutral. Only your response gives them weight. This insight resonates beyond Stoicism. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches that one must act without attachment to results. The act is yours, the outcome is not. Liberation comes by releasing your claim on outcomes, and with it, the fear of failure. Epictetus would agree. Peace is found not in shaping events but in shaping the self. Across traditions, wisdom converges on the truth that inner mastery is freedom. Modern psychology echoes this. Cognitive framing, the way we interpret events, shapes emotion. Epictetus anticipated this. Men are disturbed not by things, but by their opinions about them. The logic of inner liberation is not mystical, it is practical. Change your story, and you change your experience. Where others see chains, the Stoic sees training. Where others see insult, the Stoic finds a chance to practice patience. Freedom is not absence of hardship, but presence of perspective. Yet awareness must be continuous. Each day tests ownership. Is this anger truly mine to hold? Is this fear real or imagined? The Stoics likened the mind to a citadel, an inner fortress no enemy can breach without consent. Guarding its gates is the essence of practice. To live this way is to be free, even in a world of shifting circumstance. Still, logic alone cannot transform life. Epictetus urged his students not to talk of philosophy but to embody it. Freedom is forged in habit, small acts of restraint, courage, and clarity repeated daily. Each refusal to be disturbed by what is beyond your control is a step deeper into liberation. The map lies in Stoic reasoning, but the journey must be walked. The fruit of inner practice is a quiet and resilient strength. One who is free is not cold or indifferent but open, for what is essential cannot be touched. Loss, insult, and delay meet not with turmoil but with composure, absorbed into a deeper calm. This calm is not weakness, but power, for it enables action without fear or desperation. To live in this way is to embody the true logic of freedom, guided by reason, rooted in self-command, and unshaken by the turns of fortune. The logic of inner liberation is timeless, yet modern. It invites us to stop chasing control in the outer world and to discover control in the inner one. In doing so, we are freed not only from external bondage, but from the restless grasping of desire itself. True freedom is not endless choice or escape, but mastery, an autonomy that grows stronger with each challenge faced. Epictetus's teaching remains a living guide for any age, showing that the path to peace lies not in changing the world, but in changing the way we walk through it. Epictetus' philosophy is not confined to the ruins of ancient Rome. It breathes in practice. Its power lies not in lofty theory but in daily application. For him, freedom is not a distant reward reserved for sages, but a discipline available to anyone willing to train the mind. To live with such freedom is to transform the ordinary into a field of mastery. Each task becomes an exercise in discipline, each relationship a lesson in balance, each thought a chance to claim sovereignty. Life itself becomes the training ground where inner liberty is forged and preserved. Take work, for example. The office or virtual desk can feel like a modern prison, heavy with deadlines, reviews, and the constant hum of expectation. Yet Stoicism reframes this. Freedom at work does not mean rejecting duty or fleeing responsibility, but acting with composure amid pressure. You can prepare, act diligently, and present clearly. But the supervisor's praise, the client's reaction, the market's turn belong not to you but to fortune. Remembering this shields the mind from anxiety's chains. Picture a meeting where criticism cuts deep. The instinct may be anger or despair, but the Stoic response begins with a pause. Others' words lie beyond your command. Your response remains yours. Choose calm, choose clarity. Then you are no longer ruled by another's judgment but by yourself. That is freedom. Relationships, too, test this practice. Bonds bring joy but also disappointment. How often do we tie our peace to others' actions? A forgotten call, a careless word, a partner's failure, and our calm collapses. Stoicism reminds us, you cannot control another's heart, only your own. To love without clinging, to give, this independence deepens intimacy, rooting affection in generosity rather than need. Imagine a heated argument. Instead of letting another's anger ignite yours, you recognize it as their storm, not yours. You breathe, listen, and respond from steadiness. That is not weakness but mastery, the refusal to be a mirror to turbulence. By anchoring in calm, you make freedom a lived reality, not an abstract idea. The inner world itself requires discipline. Modern life scatters the mind with endless worries, regrets, and anticipations, as if tugged by invisible strings. Stoic freedom cuts those strings. Writing, for instance, becomes liberation. Epictetus encouraged reflection. Marcus Aurelius filled notebooks with meditations. Journaling today serves the same purpose. To see thoughts clearly, separate illusion from truth, and reclaim sovereignty. Each line written reclaims a piece of the mind's citadel. Meditation offers another path, not lofty silence on mountaintops, but simple awareness. Watching thoughts rise and fade without surrendering to them is freedom itself. Waiting in traffic, sipping tea, standing in line, these become small arenas of mindfulness, strengthening mastery until it becomes habit. At the heart of Stoicism lies a compass. Is this within my control? Ask it before reacting to headlines, before worrying over a delayed reply. Often the answer is no, and in that recognition lies peace. Countless hours of energy, once wasted on what was never yours, return to you. Freedom arises not from grand gestures but from repeated acts of discernment. Adversity, too, tests this practice. Illness, loss, setbacks, these tempt us to think freedom has been stolen. Yet Stoicism insists the opposite. Adversity is the proving ground. Epictetus knew this firsthand. Born a slave, lamed in body, stripped of possessions, he still discovered liberty through his mind. Pain could not chain his judgment. His life shows that the human spirit can rise even as the body falters. Imagine losing a cherished plan. The sting comes first, but then you recall, outcomes were never promised. Effort was yours. Results belonged to the universe. Acceptance frees you from bitterness. Over time, the lesson deepens. Resilience matters more than circumstance. This is not resignation, but sovereignty. The strength to walk steadily even when the path shifts. Technology, too, challenges freedom. Notifications, comparisons, curated images, these often rule our moods. A phone can be a chain if you let it, but discipline transforms it into a tool. By choosing when to engage, resisting comparison, guarding focus, you remain present rather than enslaved to illusion. In this digital age, freedom is not disconnection but disciplined connection. In every area of life, one lesson repeats itself. Freedom does not depend on circumstances but is forged in our response to them. Challenges are not obstacles to liberty, but opportunities to practice it. The effort may be demanding, yet what it yields is rare. A calm resilience that stands firm amid the chaos of a hurried world. When viewed through this lens, work is no longer mere duty, but a field of training. Relationships deepen because they are freed from need, and the inner life becomes a sanctuary untouched by external storms. The great Stoics, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, echo this truth across centuries. They remind us that philosophy is not withdrawal from the world, but engagement with it from a position of sovereignty. To live freely is to fulfill your duties without becoming enslaved to outcomes, to love without turning affection into possession, and to think without surrendering to every passing impulse. This is freedom not as an abstract idea, but as a lived reality, woven into the details of everyday existence. Yet the path requires patience. Habits of dependency and reactivity are deeply ingrained. But each mindful act, every pause before reacting, every journal entry that clarifies thought, every deliberate choice to remain steady, strengthens the citadel of the mind. Over time, this fortress becomes unshakable, a space no insult, loss, or disappointment can penetrate. At that point, freedom ceases to be theory and becomes rhythm. It is present in the way you rise in the morning, in how you work with steadiness, how you welcome joy without clinging, and how you meet sorrow without collapse. Far from being a burden, applied stoicism becomes liberation. It brings you back to yourself, revealing that sovereignty was never far away. It has always lived in the quiet command of your own mind. The journey through Stoic freedom leads to its highest lesson. True liberation is not found in fleeing society or rejecting responsibility, but in breaking the chains within the mind. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that freedom is not the absence of constraint, but the mastery of self. Peace does not arise when the world bends to your will. It appears when your will aligns with reality. To live this way is to embody sovereignty that no empire, crisis, or era can diminish. The principle is simple yet demanding. Distinguish what lies within your power from what does not. Epictetus called this the gateway to tranquility. By accepting what is beyond control, you shed the weight of futile struggle. By focusing on what is yours, judgment, choice, and character, you discover strength untouchable by fate. Freedom, then, is not escape, but transformation, rooted in clarity and resilience. Modern life often denies this wisdom. We are told strength lies in controlling outcomes, in shaping wealth, status, and circumstance. Yet history proves otherwise. Empires fall, fortunes vanish, health declines. No external possession grants permanence. To cling to what is fragile is to live in anxiety. Stoic freedom offers another path. Release illusions, hold lightly what fortune gives, and anchor stability in the one domain that endures, the governance of your own mind. Picture yourself at the edge of an ancient ruin, gazing upon stones that once bore empires. Kings commanded here, armies marched, wealth flowed, and yet all has crumbled into silence. What endures is not their power, but the quiet resilience of stone. The same is true of the mind. If freedom rests on permanence outside us, it vanishes like the empires of old. But if it rests on mastery of thought, it outlives monuments. History whispers this truth to anyone willing to listen. The Stoics never sought to erase emotion or deny suffering. Instead, they aimed to understand its roots. Anger rises when reality defies our will. Fear grows when we imagine futures we cannot govern. Despair deepens when we measure life by what slips away. Yet by loosening expectation, by greeting the future with balance, by recognizing that loss cannot touch what is essential, these storms lose power. Freedom is not cold indifference, but resilient warmth. You still feel, yet you no longer drown. Marcus Aurelius accepted death as nature's law, transforming terror into teacher. Seneca warned of life's brevity, urging us to live richly within our hours instead of chasing illusions. Epictetus reminded that loss lies not in the event, but in the judgment we attach. Together their voices teach. Freedom is not the avoidance of change, but harmony with it. In daily practice, this wisdom takes tangible form. When illness strikes, freedom is choosing courage over despair. When insult comes, freedom is responding with dignity rather than anger. When failure arrives, freedom is learning without self-condemnation. Each situation beyond control offers a chance to practice release, to affirm sovereignty of the mind. What seems like limitation becomes training. What seems like loss becomes initiation. The Stoics teach that even adversity can serve as the material from which freedom is built. Now imagine your own life as a tapestry. Some threads you control, weaving them carefully with intention. Other threads arrive by chance, events, encounters, and outcomes. You cannot choose their color or texture, but you can choose how to weave them into the whole. A weaver does not resist the thread, they shape it into pattern. In this image lies the secret of Stoic freedom. Not to reject the uncontrollable, but to integrate it with wisdom. The result is not perfection, but harmony. A design where even shadows add depth. To live by these lessons is to cultivate serenity that the world cannot disturb. It is to walk through noise with inner silence, to meet chaos with steady gaze, to love without clinging, and to lose without despair. Such freedom is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, like the still center of a turning wheel. Around it, life spins with triumph and tragedy, but the center holds. This center is yours to claim, if you are willing to release what was never yours to hold. Modern seekers often imagine freedom as escape, through travel, new careers, or reinvented identities. Such pursuits may refresh, but they do not guarantee liberation. For wherever you go, the mind travels with you. If left unmastered, it binds you still. The Stoics remind us that true freedom does not require flight from cities, duties, or relationships. It requires only that we stop granting power to what lies beyond our control. In that refusal, the chains of dependence quietly fall away. Nature itself illustrates this truth. The vastness of the sky, the depth of oceans, the turning of seasons, these mysteries stretch far beyond human reach. Yet instead of despair, they invite humility and awe. To recognize your smallness within the cosmos is not defeat, but clarity. You no longer strive to dominate what cannot be ruled. Instead, you find peace in participation, freedom in surrender, strength in alignment with the whole. This is not resignation but awakening, a shift from restless control toward reverent presence. And so the question remains, are we free? Freedom is never secured once for all. It must be chosen daily. It is found in the pause before anger, in the release of useless worry, in the acceptance of change. These repeated choices shape character until freedom becomes not a theory, but a way of living, uncovered moment by moment within. The highest lesson of Stoic freedom, then, is that liberation comes not from bending the world, but from bending the self toward harmony with the world. It is to accept the limits of control, to embrace impermanence, and to find dignity in the governance of thought. When you live this way, chains fall silent. Life no longer feels like a contest against fate, but a collaboration with it. In this state, you embody the truth Epictetus lived, that the freest person is the one who has mastered themselves. The wisdom of Epictetus invites us to see freedom not as possession or power, but as mastery of the self. True freedom is the calm ability to guide your thoughts, steady your emotions, and accept the turning of life without resistance. It is not wealth or status that secures peace, but the clarity of knowing what lies within your control. When you choose to live in alignment with this truth, you step into a freedom no external force can diminish. If this message resonates, let it begin with a single practice. Observe your thoughts, pause before reacting, and remind yourself that the mind is your domain. Over time, these small acts build into lasting liberation. Here on Stoic Dhamma, we continue to explore ancient wisdom for modern life. If today's reflection sparked insight, you might share a comment, subscribe, or return for the next journey. Ancient Wisdom Mindset Trust Life Order. To find inner peace, Seneca the Younger.
References 1. Long, A.A., 2002. Epictetus, A Stoic and Socratic Guide to Life. Oxford University Press. Point 2. Irvine, W.B., 2009. A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy. Oxford University Press. Point 3. Sellers, J., 2019. Lessons in Stoicism. Penguin Books.